Hello, everybody. Hello, come on in. Welcome in. Hello. Welcome. Come on in, everybody. Come on in, everybody. Hello. Welcome. If you are here, please share your name, pronouns, role, organization, and why you chose to be here today. Hello. Hi. Hi. Hello. 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 Hi. Welcome. If you are here, let us know you're here. Hi, Mary. Good to see you. Or know that you're here. Hello, let us know you're here. If you are here, let us know in the chat. Name, pronouns, role, organization, and why you decided to join us today. Hi. Hi, Laura. Hi, Rachel. Yes. Our new friend, Rachel. Hello, everybody. Yes, let us know you're here. Come on, y'all. Join us. Hi, Isaiah. Glad you are here. All right. If you are here, Isaiah is here because they want to help transform their organization. You are in the right place. Hello, friends. Hello. Hello. All right. Welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. And it is entitled Walk with Me, Transforming My Organization from the Inside Out. Now, for those of you who might be new to Embracing Equity, I want to just spend just a second introducing Embracing Equity. Embracing Equity is an organization that develops the mindsets and practices that ensure an inclusive and equitable community. We help build stronger, more inclusive teams. We offer tailored solutions for the education sector, for Montessori, for organizations, and for funders, driving toward a world where every person can thrive. If you want to, use the link in the chat to submit an inquiry form or schedule a free 30-minute inquiry call or coaching session with me so that we can support you on your equity journey. Hello, we've got some other people who have joined us. Hi, Natasha, Benjamin, and Curtis. Dr. Holmes, good to see you so much. All right. I'm welcoming everybody in the chat and those of you who have not to our conversation today. The name of this conversation, Real Talk, Real Action, that's part of our webinar series that is really a part of our ongoing work as we are looking from the inside out, right? Embracing Equity said we need to be equitable to make sure people have access. So we are working to freely share resources, knowledge, research, and collective learning together. And so at the end of today's episode, we'll offer some free gifts from us to you, and we will share a sneak peek into the next free webinar. And we'll have a Q&A so that you in the chat can join in this conversation. We want to hear what you think about it. So I am honored to introduce you to our esteemed panel who will be sharing their walk and their journey in leading as they transform their organizations from the inside out. So I'll start with me. I just started talking to you. My name is Dr. Nicole Evans. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I serve as the Senior Director of Leadership at Embracing Equity. It is the place where I get to work every day. And where I'm working, I'm putting work in quotation marks, right? It's a place where I get to show up fully, my whole self, and use my passion. And I also lean into my vast background in the education field. For the past 27 years, I've served my community as a teacher, a principal, and the director of urban education at Harris-Stowe State University, an HBCU here in my hometown of St. Louis. Equity has always been a part of what's important to me. And so that is one of the things that inspires me to do this work. Today, I will be serving as your host, and joining me right now are two amazing leaders, Kate Chavez, we're going to bring her into the room, and Sarah Shaw. All right. So let's start with you meeting them. Kate?
Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Chavez. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am coming to you from Tiwa Territory in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm privileged to be in my third year as executive director of Escuela del Sol Montessori School and the Harwood Art Center, which is our outreach program that provides education, opportunity, and access to the arts for the community at large. I'm inspired to do this work because I truly believe, as Dr. Evans has often reminded me, that this is the plate. At our organization, we talk every day about using this work to build the world that we want to see within our gates. And that starts with basing everything we do in equity and justice.
You're muted. Thank you, Kate. Next on our panel is Sarah Shaw. Sarah?
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you today. My name's Sarah Shaw. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm on the traditional lands of the Nisqually people in Lacey, Washington. I started my career in public education as a paraeducator, moved into a special education teacher where I earned a master's degree and my national board certification at that time. For the last 3 years, I've served as the principal of a Chinook Middle School in Lacey, and I am inspired and committed to raising awareness and helping educators understand issues of equity, while also providing resources towards those who've been historically under-resourced. So that's what has brought me to this work, and I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. All right. I think we're ready. Let's jump into this topic, right? Walk with me, right? My transformative journey. That's what we're talking about. But before we begin really diving deep into that topic, it is important to note that leaders and organizations really have been thinking about centering anti-racism, equity, and belonging in their daily work for a long time. This is not new. A notable, however, shift in our world was when George Floyd was murdered on May 25th, 2020. We sometimes refer to that time as the anti-racist summer of 2020, because this was a time when people, and particularly organizations, many of them for the very first time, began to look inward and understood that a change had to happen. This tragedy, in fact, ignited a fire under many people and organizations. In fact, in response to that tragedy, an unprecedented number of companies made headline-grabbing announcements. They came out with beautiful equity statements, anti-racist statements. They also made huge financial pledges to Black Lives Matter, Black community organizations, Black-owned businesses, criminal justice reform efforts, and anti-racism efforts across these United States. According to a McKinsey report released in December of 2020 and updated on the one-year anniversary of Floyd's murder, more than 1,100 organizations committed a total of $200 billion to racial justice initiatives between June 20th, 2020 and May of 2021. Further, the McKinsey's analysis showed that nearly 90% of those pledges came from financial institutions. Yet, this is important, a later examination by a Forbes magazine article began to ask questions. And that question was, where is the $20 billion that was pledged to this cause? We're going to drop the link to the article in the chat if you want to read that a little bit later. So, as we are approaching the 4-year anniversary, we are collectively reflecting on what has or has not changed, and we're going deeper. We're asking questions. If I'm being real about it, many of us are disappointed, as we seem currently to be experiencing a time where that fire that was lit under so many has simmered or really been stamped out. Even more disappointing is what feels like a nationwide attempt to censor discussions of race in the classroom, the promotion of book bans, and legislation that seeks to uphold an alternative version of American history. Y'all feeling that too? Come on, talk to me in the chat. If you are feeling that too, let us know. Let us know. But here's the thing. Despite the pushback, despite the all and out attack on this work, there's hope. That hope comes from organizations that are boldly doubling down on this work, led by leaders insisting on doing the work. So today you're going to hear from 2 leaders who joined a year-long leadership residency cohort with me and my colleagues at Embracing Equity to turn this hope into action steps. There are leaders who still believe that this work needs to be woven throughout their organizations so that organizations, and most importantly, the people in them, the people that they serve, are thriving. So I'm going to turn to the panelists now. Y'all ready to join me and come in this conversation with me? All right, here's a question for you. I mentioned that you worked with Embracing Equity, myself and my colleagues. You committed to a year of doing this work. What made you believe, your organization believe, that this was the right work to do?
So for my part, I actually started the residency in my first year of leadership in the organization. So I was stepping into an organization. We were an organization that had made an anti-racist statement, and it was on our website. But when I came into the organization, there wasn't really a clear plan of what that looked like in action and what that actually meant in the day-to-day practices of our organization. And I knew as a new leader that I didn't have all of the tools or the answers or anything that I needed. I was new to the organization in so many different ways and new to in so many different ways. And so when I learned about embracing equity and this leadership residency, it was like, and after my first session with Dr. Evans, it was really clear that this was the support and guidance that I needed to have a meaningful engagement with this work and make a real plan for the organization. And then I also, in going through the cohort, also had the privilege and inspiration of being able to interact with leaders from around the country who are on their own journeys, hearing about their own experiences, and being able to learn not just from what was happening in my organization, but what was happening in a variety of organizations and situations all over.
Yeah, I think you're leaning into that. You know, we always said when we joined, iron sharpens iron. And so organizations were coming and joining and supporting each other. It was pretty powerful. What about you, Sarah? What made you believe that this was the right work to do?
So I was an assistant principal at a middle school, and I was charged with leading equity work. I knew I had a heart for the work. I wasn't really sure how to do the work, how to help lead that work. I had applied for the residency over a weekend, and a couple months later got a call from you, Dr. Evans, and introducing it and trying to figure out how to make it happen. And so at that school, we had completed the equity audit with the staff, and we went into summer break, and I was afforded the opportunity to move organizations and become a principal. So I completed the year with the first residency, but at a different school, and trying to understand and really unpack kind of some personal goals and things. And then I worked with my organization to do a second residency so that I could complete the whole process with my current school at Chinook. And what we did is do the audit, the equity audit, identify some pain points, some growth areas, worked on some personal goals, because part of what is really important about embracing equity that I value and appreciate so much is that it's not just the systems work, it's the personal work. And who am I and what am I learning and unlearning, constantly trying to grow and work on that while also working on some systems changes. We can't do that separately. And so the residency really taught me that. And in my school now, we have a really changing dynamic in our community where the diversity is changing. The community is shifting from a small town vibe to more of a city. And so part of what has been nice about going through the residency and doing the work and committing to my self work and the systems work is just focusing on a more equitable system.
Okay, I know this, but just in case somebody didn't hear it, you said you did it twice?
Yeah.
A little bit more. Why'd you do it twice?
I started at one school and wasn't able to finish that work. And I knew going through that first residency, my previous organization had supported it and paid for it, quite frankly. So I continued with coaching and growing myself. And I realized at the end of that this school, this organization needed an opportunity to do it as well. And so I was able to come alongside with our district's director of equity and languages and work with him on some bigger organization pieces as well as in my school, to just really help shift from the inside out and truly do the work together collaboratively, and help bring this school along as I serve as the principal.
Yeah, I love that. What I heard you say was I needed to do the work, right? I started a thing and wasn't able, and this was a way to do the work. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So
Absolutely.
let's take a step back. You've told us that you came, you did this year. So you made a decision. You knew it was important. You have now decided to walk this year-long residency journey with Embracing Equity, where you are being asked to commit to leading transformational change. Not sit and get, not just learn more. We're asking you to do some things, right? It's guided by the pieces that you all have been talking about. It was the leadership residency is guided by our ecosystem approach of focusing on the three levers of transformative change: individual and personal development, impacting and changing the culture and climate, and also deeply looking at the structures and systems. So that is our ecosystem approach. So you go even further. That was the big thing that you agreed to. You also agreed to participate in each component of the leadership residency. You start off by saying, all right, we're going to participate in an equity audit of our individual organizations. How's that for putting a mirror on yourself? Because those sometimes are not easy to look at. You also said, all right, I'm going to show up for community of practice meetings with other leaders from across the nation. And I'm going to talk about my struggles and my successes. You said, all right, I know I'm going to need some one on one coaching. You availed yourself to that and problem solving with your cohort members with office hours. Not to mention really looking at that data and using that data to help you set goals and take the work back to your organizations. Wow. Again, not a sit and get kind of experience here. You are actually saying, I'm doing it. I am taking action steps towards creating and maintaining a truly equitable organization. Wow, that's huge. And that might sound like a lot of support, but it's also a big commitment for
Mhm.
people. So, would you all please, I know you talked about big picture, share some more of your experience with us and in the leadership residency program? What were you expecting to get out of it? What did you get out of it? And how? That's what I think a lot of people have showed up to hear about. How did you begin to transform your organizations and yourselves?
So, when I started, I think I didn't really know what to expect. I just knew
Mm,
that I needed help, and I knew that that just from my conversations with you and looking at the materials, that this was the place to be and the place to start.
mm,
But I didn't really know what that was going to look like, right? If
mm,
I was just going to get a checklist of like, here are the things I should do, right? And which is, as you were just saying, that's not at all what the work was like. And I think one of the things that is so powerful about this residency, I could speak to any of those three pieces that really support that whole framework and specific actions that that I took, like on a personal level, and then for culture, and then for systems. And I think that's what's really beautiful about it, is some of the changes that we made were really practical. Like
mm,
we learned from our equity audit that as an organization, we value politeness over honesty. And we
mm,
realized that that's a real cultural issue, that we're not going to be able to have difficult conversations as a community if we can't be honest with each other about simple everyday things.
yeah.
Digging into that deeper, we learned that there's maybe a fear of retaliation at the organization, and so
Mm,
we changed our employee guidebook. We hired an external HR consultant to do grievance policies, to remove it, so that people could have complete anonymity as they needed
mm,
to talk about things that were maybe affecting them and their work at the organization. And then also worked with those consultants to do some training around how do we work with people with different conflict styles. And we've continued to build on that work with another person who's been working with our organization on respectful confrontation. And what does that look like? And it's been, you watch kind of the wobbling of people like, oh, this doesn't, like, we want to feel good about this work, but this work doesn't always feel good. And I think that's the other piece, that having that support of the community, having the support of those office hours, of the coaching, of being able to go back and say, this is what's happening with my staff. This is what's happening with my families. This is what's happening, like we tried this thing and this is what's happening. And then to be able to have a brain trust, really, of people to sort of talk through a problem practice and really think about, okay, try this way. Yeah. But also to just have that support, like, yes, this is the work, just to be reminded that, that everybody's feeling uncomfortable and maybe angry. Like, you sort of receive some anger from people, but it's really about, like, as we start to uncover this work, like what I learned a lot is, like, what's already in there that we need to unpack and look at. But then there's also just the real systems pieces of, like, what does our budget look like? Right? How do we make a more equitable budget? And how do we move towards that? So it really was a wide swath of what we got out of it as an organization, and for me as an individual.
As you talk about that, let me ask you one more question. How did you prepare the community for the culture and climate shift that was going to happen?
Well, I think the equity audit was a really big piece of that, actually, is because the fact that the equity audit wasn't performed by the organization, right? That the embracing equity was coming in and asking these questions. And so people knew that they could answer those questions in a very honest way, and that there was kind of, like, not only that they could answer it in an honest way, but that embracing equity was creating the container for those conversations to happen. And then the process of rolling out the equity audit was also really guided, right? We were really clear on leading up to doing the equity audit, then having the equity audit, then rolling out the equity audit, and then talking about the goals that were coming out of that.
Yeah.
Now, I will be totally transparent. I don't think it went perfectly. I don't think that I did everything, like, I wouldn't give myself a gold star. But the thing that I have to keep reminding myself is, like, I just have to show up to this work imperfectly.
Yes. Awesome.
That's really powerful. Yeah. I can agree with that. It's really difficult to take that first step and to step in bravely and honestly and really vulnerable, to say, we're going to try something. It might not work. It might not go perfectly, but we're going to try. And I think that's part of the commitment that this residency requires of us, to say, we're going to try. We're going to take that step and move something.
Yeah. So how was it for you, Sarah, when you first started? Like, what did you what were you expecting? What did you, and how did you begin to transform?
I'll focus kind of on my experience as a principal in the second, since that's kind of the full experience. I was having gone through it, I had a little bit of some preconceived notions about the cohort and the support. So I kind of knew that I was going to be lifted up. I wasn't going to be left alone. So I wasn't as nervous as I would have been. But where I was nervous was being in this new community as a white leader in a community that's shifting in diversity. I wasn't sure how I was going to be perceived coming in and saying, I want to do equity work in this community that's shifting, that historically has had, some conservative values and beliefs. And I wasn't sure. I came in with my own biases about what does that mean for this community and how do I show up as my authentic self and who do I bring to the table? And so I had to kind of work through some of my own biases on like, the community I came from was much more representative of people of the global majority, where I was the minority, right? Where here it's currently about 50-50. And what does that mean? And so, the bias of like this community wants to stay where it is, but then I had to find those folks that really do want to do this work and are passionate about this work. I'm really proud that my organization has a director of equity and languages that's focusing on moving these forward. Part of why I wanted to come here was an equity plan that was already existing that I could believe in and buy into and support. And so I knew there were some foundational pieces, but I had to explore where's the school at and what does equity mean for the folks here? What do they already know and don't know and need to learn and unlearn? And how do I fit into that as the leader, coming in and pushing on some ideas? And so some of where I started was just exposure. I do a weekly newsletter to my staff, and I just include like a bite-sized piece of equity in every newsletter, a quick article, a blog post, a YouTube video, just something that they could, less than 5 minutes, get some exposure to. And then we expand on that in other places. Had an opportunity to partner with our director of equity to do a PD on microaggressions and the language around that, and really a deeper exposure that had connected to some of those bite-sized pieces. And so just thinking about, ways to make these connections. We celebrate the Black Lives Matters at school every week. And so we connect with the Learning for Justice blog around that, or some resources to help staff talk to kids about racial language and racialized language and what does that mean at our school. And for middle school kids, Embracing Equity has a great resource on co-creating common community standards. And so we use that as a foundational piece with the building leadership team to make norms for brave spaces that then we use at every meeting. So just kind of pulling these little pieces in and doing some exposure, as opposed to just, we can't shift the whole system at once, but where can we start making some headway and taking that first step? And I think that's been just really powerful. And like Kate was talking about, we don't always succeed, and sometimes we don't get that gold star, but we're strong enough and brave enough and together can come together and say, hey, Dr. Evans, I need a coaching session. We're struggling in this area, and walk through that personally, or come to office hours with other leaders who are like, oh yeah, I did it this way. This is something I learned from that. Here's what I would share with you. And just, it's powerful to have a community of people, because like you said in the introduction, there are leaders that want to do this. And if we're in an island, we can't do it alone, but collectively we can come together, we can learn from each other and support each other. And so that's what kept me coming back to Embracing Equity over and over again, is just that community and that support, that we're not in this alone.
Love it. Now you all talked about, go, Kate.
I just wanted to add something to that too, because that not being alone piece, I feel like, is really key. And I think one of the things that's so important about the residency is that there's two people that go through the residency in the same organization. And so to have that co-leadership with somebody else in your organization. In my case, it was Tunisia Hale-Jones, who's our level director for the junior high. And having that, she brings such a different history with the organization, and so I think that is such a crucial piece of it, to be able to partner with somebody at your organization and have that accountability, and to be able to go through that process together felt really important.
Ooh, I love that. Now you all talked about some of the bright spots and what you took away. Can we briefly talk about some of the pain points that you experienced along the journey? I want to give the folks all of it. So what were some of those?
So one of the, I talked about it a little bit in my answer before, that, there's anger that comes up, there's fear that comes up. I think one of the pain points that I experienced was, learning that what people say that they want, and then what people are ready to actually do or engage in might not be the same. And I learned that if I move from A to B too quickly, even if I think I'm not moving, even though I think that we're all on the same page, like that I really need to take the time to make sure that we really are all on the same page. We really do sort of share that, like, yes, we have community agreements. Yes, we've looked at all of this data together. Yes, we've like had these conversations, but are we really all here, or what is still needed to move forward? And I think so that for me was a real learning point as a leader, to like listen again, listen deeper, ask more questions, listen more, and then act, and not just sort of get the information and then like just what am I missing? What am I missing? Still looking again, what am I missing? While not being like, and finding that balance, right? Of like, but we're still moving, we're still coming along. So for me, that was, like trying to implement some of the findings from the equity audit. I think I moved too fast, or I thought what I thought we were communicating and what was actually being received wasn't actually in line. So for me, there was a lot of real growth opportunities as a leader, that I wouldn't have known if I hadn't actually done these things and tried these things, right? It was like by making those mistakes that I really learned those lessons. So it was painful, but also huge opportunities for growth.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. What about you, Sarah? Pain point.
Oh yeah, and you'll probably hear our bell because I'm at school and kids are moving about the building, so ignore the noise. As our community is changing here, both culturally, students with more diverse socioeconomic experiences, kids with disabilities, and what that means. There's a belief in our community that, the way that things have been done is kind of how they want to keep that going. Because that's comfortable and feels safe and known, right? So me being outside of this community, coming in and bringing in some new ideas, trying to welcome in some different pieces in terms of equity and systems changes, has some resistance, because there's a loss, there's a grief of losing kind of the way things have always been done, but also there's a belief that in our community that kids are important and kids matter and all kids should be served well. And so we find that common ground a lot of times throughout this experience, as I've kind of tried to shift, maybe didn't work so well. Like Kate said, move too fast. It really takes time to build relationships and rapport. And where I had a pain point was I wanted to move fast. I'm a doer. I'm an action-oriented person. I'm a checklist person. Like, let's get moving. And sometimes you got to slow that down and just really have those conversations. Look at the data point. Be informed. I had parents that would bring me a book to read on why cell phones shouldn't be in school that had a really religious belief. And I had to sit with that and think about, who are you as a stakeholder and why is that matter to you? And how do I honor that through the conversation? Or things like, teachers excluding because of identity needs or not understanding students' identities. Middle school kids are figuring out who they are. They're trying on lots of identities. They're trying to figure out pronouns and names and all kinds of pieces to them. And how do we include them in our classrooms and our conversations? And how do we understand that? And what does that mean in their middle school brains? So equity is more than just racial equity. There's all kinds of layers to this. And so, our equity audit revealed a need for more racial conversations. But what does that look like when our staff is mostly white folks? What does that look like to honor the backgrounds of all people? What does that look like or sound like to really be informed and have culturally informed practices? We have a big Native community. Our Nisqually tribe is a huge partner for our school district and our school. And how do we welcome them into the conversation?
Nice.
My first year as principal, gosh, I just forgot about this, but we had a mascot change because we had a native mascot, and there was a law in Washington that said you need to talk to your local federally recognized tribe. So the Chinook is a tribe in Washington that's not federally recognized. So we went to the Escuela, they're our federally recognized tribe, and they said, no, you cannot have that mascot. It's offensive. And so part of the work together was, how do I, new to this community and this entrenched mascot that's very important, and there's a long history.
Wow.
Now we're shifting that. And what does that look like? And that was painful. That was painful. And we had a lot of coaching sessions, Dr. Evans, about how do I navigate this conversation? How do we even get to a point of having a new mascot? The identity of the school, right? We talked about loss, grief. Yes. What a big loss that was. But also what a beautiful process it ended up being, because it was messy. It was messy, but then we got to a place of pride in our orca mascot and a logo and colors and all the things that come with that school identity. And so, we had a lot of pain points, but we were able to work together and able to just not, check the box like Chequity, but that we're really ingraining this in our systems. It's not a separate piece. Like Kate said, it is the plate. It is not an appetizer to the plate. It is the plate. It is the work. And it takes a while, but it can have some beautiful results through the mess.
Yes. Thank you, Sarah. I wanted to, and we're going to hear from Kate. I just wanted people to understand that there were many times that I had to hold y'all and say, listen, it doesn't feel good, but this is the work. Remember that? Both of you all.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
All right. So, let's stay there, Sarah. We're going to open it up in just a moment for Q&A from our folks who have joined us here, right? But Sarah, and then Kate will close us out. Can you share your big takeaways and what advice do you have for people thinking about taking this step? Because we're about to open up another leadership residency. What would you say to them? Big takeaways? What advice do you have for folks?
This residency gave me more than I could ever have prepared myself for, understood. I'm not the same person. I'm not the same leader. I'm not the same friend or all the things have shifted for me. To be able to learn along really equity focused leaders and have the opportunity to share and hear other folks' experiences is just very affirming for me that this is the right path, that this is the right work. It can be scary to feel like you're doing it alone, but having coaching sessions that were tailored to my needs as a person, as a professional, being able to be vulnerable and take risks, not something I'm good at or enjoy doing, but is necessary. Being able to learn how to do that and experience that with other people who are also being vulnerable and taking risks. Yes. I think I'm a better person for it all. I think my best advice would be just take the first step. You're not going to see the whole journey. We're not done with the journey. We are nowhere near finished. We are just continuing to take that first step. There's not a roadmap. There's not an end point, but just take the first step. Step into it and be courageous enough to say, I can do this. Our world needs these leaders who believe in this work. Our country needs these leaders. I think just having this cohort at Embracing Equity is so incredibly powerful to share the bright spots. And on the hardest days, it makes the work worth it, knowing that other people are trying to make it better too. Make the world better.
Wow. Thank you, Sarah. Kate.
Yeah, same.
A solid ditto.
And to that I would add, I think one of my biggest takeaways was the way that Embracing Equity centers in wholeness and the whole person and the whole practice. And so I, as a new leader, was like, I wasn't made to feel less than or inexperienced. It was like everything that I had that I brought to my life up to this point was included and welcome. And I was both able to be present as exactly where I am and as a whole person exactly where I am, and then also be in community with people who were so much further along on the journey than I am, and to listen and learn from them, which really felt like everybody. It's like I just have so much to learn from everybody, and that was really, really helped me as I was, stepping into this role, is it just as a leader, because if it is the whole plate, and I am the whole person, and I am the person who's here right now, and I think that sometimes it feels like Chequity is my new favorite word. But sometimes it feels like that approach to equity work doesn't actually always allow that messiness or that wholeness. And so that was one of my biggest takeaways, is that I could just be like, here I am today. There was a space for all of it. And that was really, really critical. And then the other thing that I feel like happened is, just by going through the process, it felt like there was starting to be shifts in the culture of the organization. Like I started to see co-leadership coming through with teachers, with staff, in these other ways that aren't necessarily things that I can, there's some things I can point to, like this and this and this happened, but there's also just this sense of like a shared ownership, so every time I did something really scary, like send a letter about an event that happened at the school or something like that I was like, oh, everybody's, it actually ended up having this unforeseen consequence that I wouldn't have anticipated, of like everybody kind of like leaning into that with me a little bit. And I hadn't if I let my fear or not having the support of the residency kind of push me into those places, I wouldn't have experienced that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's powerful to say that we are not alone. And as we feel alone in our organization, what we find is those people that are coming alongside of us as well. And I've seen that too in our families and our kids and our staff.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, we are at the point where we want to bring the folks who have showed up today. We love that y'all are here. What questions do you have for us? So drop it in the chat, and you can ask any one of us a question, because I'll just end with this statement. No one is free until we all are free. So let's co-power together. Let's co-power. So questions for us for this amazing panel. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Kate. Both heads of their schools, or principals or executive directors, and really holding the big picture here. So come on, y'all, ask us some questions in the chat. You have them. You have their undivided attention. If you want to know more about their journey, let us know. All right. Yes, Catherine, you have some very specific questions. The schedule, what I will say, and then I'll let them either confirm or deny that, is we understand the busy life of the leader. And so the residency actually starts in March and it goes to the following March. So we understand that you need time, and we started it very intentionally when and where we did, so that you could have some time with your equity audit results in the summer, as you're already naturally planning and creating goals and things for the upcoming year. So that's what I would say. And yes, we do have the dates for the summer retreat that are coming up, but I'll let them answer, and then I'll drop the dates in the chat for you. But yeah, will you all answer? Was the schedule manageable? Was it if you all could answer Catherine's question there?
I'll say the communities of practice that meet together were really manageable. I just had to block out on my calendar. I'm on West Coast time. So they were earlier in my day, which was convenient for me in my schedule. And the coaching sessions are as your schedule aligns. So those are really individualized and it fits in the schedule really nicely.
Yeah. What about you, Kate?
Yeah, I thought having time in the summer to do the intensive work was really, like, it was a great kind of, we've already done the audit, we've already sort of started the process, so there, it's not like we're just dropping in, but like having that time in a slightly quieter time of year. Our school goes year round, so that was really helpful also, because then that it was almost like fuel to start the school year with enough time to kind of plan and prepare. So that piece was also really helpful. And then throughout the year, it was almost like those check-ins and drop-ins and stuff to keep it going. That was also really helpful.
Yes. Okay. Another question. Uh, do you feel the leadership residency is beneficial for even small or more? No, we have had an organization with as small as 5 people in the organization to Sarah's organization, which had over 1,000
Mhm.
employees in it. So it, what we have found is it has moved the needle on the work just in different ways, no matter the size of the organization. Good question, Rachel.
And I can speak to that a little bit more since I was already exposed to embracing equity and brought it down here as I worked with the district. Our director of equity also brought alongside another school into the residency. And this year, they're working with the district office level and what the bigger systems look like. And so we did it at the school level from my experience, and they're doing it at the bigger organization level now. So it can be both, I think.
Yeah, and I also want to uplift that embracing equity uses, you heard them say in coaching sessions, and coach, we use a coaching methodology and not a consulting one, right? We're like, oh, we're going to consult you. We're coaching. We're building up your leaders from the ground so that there's sustainable internal capacity, so that when we are done, and you heard them say we're never done, right? But when we have moved on after the year, that's why we're in it for a year. We're walking with you in this work, that our leaders and organizations have the capacity, the capability, the skills to carry this work forward. That's why we say it is not checkity. You're not checking the box and moving on. You will take the learning and the work with you. Yeah. Question: is it just for schools? Can other organizations join? What guidance can you give who this program is for? Absolutely. It's not just for schools. It's any organization who says, I want to do the hard work of turning the mirror on ourselves and really putting a stake in the ground saying, we're going to build an equitable organization here. I am ready to roll up my sleeves and continue to either build on a foundation that we already have, create a new foundation, or just keep going. So it is for any organization that wants the organization to be more equitable, building equitable organizations. So come on, we've dropped the application in there for sure, for sure, for sure. Fill out an application and we'll talk. We'll hop on a chat, just like I did with both of them when they were wondering, is this work for me? So yes, so right now we're going to drop in the Q&A some links for you. A free consultation, coaching session with me, and we've dropped in the leadership residency application. So thank you for joining us in this real talk, real actions. Before we close out, I want to definitely thank my panelists today for their insight and their continued work in fighting racism. And as a thank you to you as our audience, We're also going to give you free downloadable guide on steps you can take to practice anti-racism. And listen, y'all, get ready. Get ready for the next free webinar. The name of this webinar is Neutrality is Not an Option. Anti-racism requires action. So that's happening on March the 6th, same time, same place. Come on, join us in this conversation. Bring your questions, bring your thoughts, bring your passion. We will see you in just a couple weeks. And we're not going to be neutral, y'all. Anti-racism requires action. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you to our panelists. And we'll see you at the next Real Talk, Real Action. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank